Hello everyone, welcome to another patch from scratch video in which I will try to come up with a patch from scratch and talk you through it while patching. So last time I've had a time limit which turned out to be pretty short, so I will try to do it without a time limit today and still see that I will keep this video at around 15 minutes maybe, so that you won't get bored. I didn't really plan too much for today ahead, so I'll just start by patching the mixer output to my recorder. And then I feel like I want to do something with maybe a lot of percussion sounds or maybe some clicks and bleeps and blops, hopefully with some cool rhythms, but without using drum modules. So to start generating a rhythm, I will use the Intellijel Dixie VCO, again like in last video, as a LFO clock source by using the square output and multiplying it a bunch of times so that I can use it more than once, which I didn't do last time, but which I will do today. So the first thing I will patch that clock output into is my Rebeltech Stoicheia dual stochastic rhythm generator, which is cool for some bass beats. It will generate two clock pulses from an incoming clock pulse, which are generated using stochastic algorithms. And as my first sound source, I will again use the Malekko Anti-Oscillator with its mayhem output. I will patch that directly into a VCA, and the VCA output into the mixer. Because there's no control voltage going into the VCA, we won't hear anything, but we will change that. And we will patch one of the Quadra's envelope outputs into the CV input of the VCA. And we will trigger that envelope with the first stochastic output of the Stoicheia module. So let's dial the envelope in, and we don't hear anything, which is why? Because I turned the mixer down. Troubleshooting is also a very important part in modular synth sound design and music making, because there are so many connections and weird stuff you can set up that sometimes you just don't know why you won't hear anything or why something makes such a weird noise. Anyway, so now we're just hearing some clicking sound. We can see if we can, if we make the decay time longer and then adjust the pitch. We're hearing the Anti-Oscillator. Okay, maybe we want to make it a little faster and not as like a 4x4 beat, but something in between there. So this is the first clock which is generated by the Stoicheia module going into the envelope generator, which in turn controls the loudness of the signal through this VCA. Okay, let's turn that down a little bit and patch the second output of the Stoicheia into the second envelope. And the second envelope goes into the second VCA CV input, and then we'll use our main oscillator from the Wavetable VCO again as a sound source and patch that exactly like we did before with the Anti-Oscillator. And now we can choose another waveform. make this a little faster. Okay. So next up, let's create another sound using the sub-oscillator. Again, feeding it into a VCA. This is really basic stuff, and I'm just quickly gonna patch it up. And then once we get some sounds going, we can start changing the sounds and playing a bit more with it. So this is just the sub-oscillator going through the VCA into the mixer, and we will use the Quadra again, the third envelope output of the Quadra, and I patched this incorrectly. And we will trigger this envelope by using the pulses expander of the Turing machine. So I will patch my clock from the LFO into the Turing machine clock input, and now it will generate random clocks, of which I will feed one into the Quadra to trigger it. And again, troubleshooting. It's going correctly in there. And the envelope is triggered as well. Okay. And the patch cable wasn't inserted properly. Now we can choose a different wave for the sub-oscillator. And if we lock the sequence, the pulses output will lock as well and create the same rhythm over and over again. But of course we can have this randomly generated as well, which might be more interesting for now. Okay, let's create another sound source by using the triangle output of the anti-oscillator and feeding it into the plate bearer input. The plate bearer is a weird filter kind of thing. It doesn't really filter that much, it just resonates and just messes up the signal. And then let's patch that output not into a VCA but into the clean Intellijel micro VCF and use the micro VCF as a VCA. Because in low pass mode, if we just decrease the frequency cutoff of the low pass filter, it won't let any sound through. And then if we modulate the cutoff frequency with another envelope, the sound will come through when the filter opens from the envelope. And depending on the filter's characteristics, this can be really interesting. And yeah, I'm using the fourth envelope of the Quadra module, and I'm gonna patch another pulses output into the trigger input. And now I will just turn down everything apart from the last thing we patched, the triangle wave going into the plate bearer, going into the micro filter, micro VCF. And then let's just see what happens when I play around with the plate bearer. Not that much apparently. But a cool thing with the plate bearer is that you can have two inputs and two outputs, so you can route one output back into the input and create a nice feedback thing. Or well, we'll see if it's nice, but it can definitely be a little crazy. But right now it's not. I'll just turn up the... okay, here it comes. I had the frequency cutoff too low apparently, so the Quadra won't open up the filter completely. Maybe because the voltage coming out of it is too low. So let's try out with the make noise function as a slope generator or as an envelope generator, because that has a little higher output voltage, I think. I'm not exactly sure though. Yeah. Now the filter is closed completely, and the modulation CV, which modulates the cutoff frequency, is set to max. So now the filter opens almost completely when my envelope CV is high. So it lets all of the frequencies through and then just turns the cutoff frequency down again. If we increase the resonance, yeah, we get kind of an acid-like sound. And yeah, and because it's the Turing machine is set to random, we will receive just random pulses, so it's not on a fixed beat, on a fixed pattern. I'm just playing around with the plague bearer's controls, but yeah. Oh, my camera stopped there for a second, so yeah, I was just playing around with the plague bearer's controls, and the plague bearer overdrives very quickly, and then the controls won't do anything anymore. So you have to play around with it and use the input attenuator there maybe to shape the sound a little more. Yeah, this sounds a lot better. And I will just see that we can get another rhythm here. From the Turing machine I locked it, so it won't play randomly anymore, and I added some steps manually, which is possible with the right switch there. Yeah, and now the plague bearer really does some cool things with the feedback and the incoming triangle wave from the anti-oscillator. Okay, now I'll increase the volume of the other sounds. Now let's modulate some parameters of the plague bearer, or maybe just one for now, by using the fourth Quadra envelope, which we haven't used so far, in LFO mode. So now it just cycles on its own, and we'll just put that into the high input. I'll turn down the other sounds again so that we can hear what the LFO is doing. Maybe let's patch into the low input, because it appears that there's more happening. Well, maybe not. Okay, now we get a little growling sound because we have a very fast LFO. Oh, and if we go into audio rate, which means we have a really fast envelope or LFO, which you could hear, we might reach a sweet spot like that, where it fattens up the sound a little more. Okay, let's turn up the other sounds up again and see if we can do something about those. Maybe we can route the output into the Synthrotek EKO Delay again, which we did last time as well, and which often results in some cool effects, especially when we dial the rate down again. Whoops. Yeah, I always like to add a little dirt and grain, and the echo delay works really well with that. And maybe while we're on the topic of dirt and grain, before going into the echo delay from our main mixer's output, we can route it through the Klangbau tube VCA, which is a tube-driven voltage-controlled amplifier, or just an amplifier if you want to. I will dial that down and we can see what happens when we do that. I'll turn down the mix of the echo so we can hear the dry signal. Then I'll increase the gain and the volume. Okay. And this tube VCA sometimes starts to self-resonate because there's a feedback path included. And you have 3 different states the tube can be fed with electricity. I don't know exactly how it works, but it results in different sounds. Yeah, this gets really dirty. Let's add the echo. And someone's honking its horn outside. I don't know, but we don't care about that. I'll turn the Turing machine to random again. Yeah, but that's too slow, I think. So I'll turn it back to a fixed pattern and add some steps. And then I'll change the rhythm of the Stoicheia again. And I think we're at 17 minutes now, so let's just do one last modulation, because we still have a function left here, and we can modulate the gain CV of the tube VCA and see if something cool happens when we do so. A general rule on modular synthesizer is that if you can audio rate anything, if you feed really fast LFOs or other waveforms into a CV input, you can get really crazy results. So you should not forget about that, and try that out every now and then. It's like a sub-oscillator drone or something like that. Okay, that gets really dirty now. But yeah, you see what we can do here. Let's trigger the make noise function from the Turing machine again, so that we have different different amplification values over time, which will create a more rhythmic amplification. Just change the sound of the anti-oscillator and of the waveform, of the wavetable oscillator, just to see what happens. Okay, I'm just playing around with it here. But yeah, just to wrap things up, and let's just go through it once more, what I did here. I have 4 different sounds coming from the Anti-Oscillator, Mayhem output and Triangle output, and the Klangbau Wavetable oscillator. The Triangle output goes into the Plague Bearer, which has a feedback loop, which dirties up the sound quite a bit, and I'm using the micro VCF as a VCA for this sound. So we get a little more resonance and a little more coloring of the sound from the VCF's filter properties. Yeah, that goes into the main mixer. Then I have 3 envelopes from the Quadra, controlling 3 VCAs from the Doepfer Quad Exponential VCA, and all of the other 3 sounds go in there, through there. And yeah, the Quad Exponential VCA doesn't have that much character. It tends to overdrive a little bit if you feed it high voltages, but yeah, if we used another filter as a VCA there, we would have gotten different sounds, of course. Those 3 sounds go into the mixer again, out of the mixer through the tube VCA, which is modulated by a function, and from there we get the really dirty, rough sound into the Synthrotek EKO Delay module. Yeah, which adds a little more noise, maybe a little more grunge texture, and also some delays. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for bearing with me this long. It's 22 minutes, I think. And yeah, if you have any questions, go ahead, post them underneath this video, like always. If you want to see more and be notified of more videos from me, subscribe. And yeah, have fun with your modular synth and with your synthesizers and everything else, and see you in the next patch from scratch video. Bye!